In the last video, you were shown how to use a model to write and read data to the Magento database. The tables that we created in the last example were done manually through the MySQL command line interface. In this video, I'm going to show you how to write a module installation script which automates the creation of MySQL database tables. Let's get started. Before we begin, make sure you remove the MySQL table we created in the last video. If you don't do this now, you may run into some errors when we're running the installation script that we're creating in this video. Creating an installation script will require us to make some changes to our module's config.xml file. We need to specify a resource for our setup. The setup resource is going to point to a specific class for our module. In this case, we're going to use a core class, so that all we need to do is create a SQL script. The SQL scripts go in a SQL folder inside of our module. We need to make sure that the subfolder inside of SQL matches the name of our resource. In this case, example_setup. When dealing with resource setup scripts, Magento pays attention to the version number of our module. In this case, our version started at 0.0.0. So we're going to need to create a script. We're going to name this file mysql4-upgrade-000-001. And just to test, we're going to simply die. So the last thing that we need to do is increment our version number to 0.0.1 and save our config file. Then when we go to the admin and reload the page, we should see the die message. So in reality, we want our setup script to contain SQL code that our setup class will run. It's going to look something like this. Inside of this PHP file, this variable will reference the instance of the setup class. We can use that class to run SQL code. In this case, we're creating the table that was used in the previous example. So with this file saved, when we run the Magento admin, the page should load as usual. And now when we go into MySQL, we should see that our table for the events has been created. So let's recap. Like most Magento development, we started out by editing our config.xml file and adding a setup resource. When we add the setup resource, Magento is going to look in our module's SQL folder for any installation script. It uses the version tag inside of our config.xml in order to determine which scripts need to be run. On a side note, all of the current module versions get tracked in a database table. Coming up next, I'm going to introduce you to the event handling mechanisms of Magento and show you how to use a special type of model called an observer in order to harness those events. So stay tuned.